The smell of lilies still makes me sick. It's been 3 years since Roberto's funeral, and I can't walk past a flower shop without my stomach turning. But it's not grief that hits me anymore, it's rage. Pure, burning rage at what my daughter Carmen did while her father's body was still warm in that casket. I changed my will that very night. Sitting in this same dark room, with Roberto's portrait watching me, I crossed out her name with a black pen so hard it tore through the paper. She doesn't know yet, but she will. Carmen thought she was so clever, 43 years old and still playing games like she was 7. But this wasn't hide and seek in our backyard in El Paso. This was my husband's funeral. The man who raised her, loved her, gave her everything she ever wanted. And she chose that moment to destroy our family. The morning of the funeral, I woke up to the sound of voices downstairs. Hushed, urgent whispers that cut through the silence of our grief. I'd been living in that house for 38 years, and I knew every creak, every echo. These voices didn't belong. I pulled on my black dress, the same one I'd worn to my mother's funeral 12 years before. My fingers shook as I tried to pin my white hair back. At 86, your hands start betraying you in small ways. But my mind was sharp, too sharp for what I was about to discover. I walked down those stairs, each step slower than the last. The voices grew clearer. Carmen's laugh, bright and careless, cutting through the morning air like a blade. And then a man's voice, deep, familiar. My heart stopped. It was David Hernandez, Roberto's business partner for 22 years, the man who'd been at our dinner table every Christmas, every birthday, every celebration that mattered. The man Roberto trusted with his life savings, his construction company, his dreams. They were in the kitchen, standing too close, talking too quietly. Carmen saw me first. Her face went white as fresh paint. David stepped back so fast he knocked over a coffee cup. The brown liquid spread across my clean counter like a stain I'd never be able to wash out. "Mommy," Carmen said, her voice sweet as honey, fake as plastic flowers. "David just came by to discuss the arrangements for Pappy." But I could read faces. I'd been reading faces for 86 years, watching people lie to me in English and Spanish, watching them think I was too old, too tired, too broken to see the truth. David wouldn't look me in the eyes. Carmen kept touching her hair, that nervous habit she'd had since childhood. And there was something else, something in the air between them that made my skin crawl. "The arrangements," I repeated slowly. "On the morning of your father's funeral." Carmen nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yes, just making sure everything is perfect for Pappy." Perfect. As if anything about burying your husband of 51 years could ever be perfect. As if standing in a funeral home, picking out flowers for a man who used to bring you roses every Friday, could ever be anything but hell. I didn't say anything else. I just made myself a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table watching them squirm. David mumbled something about seeing us at the church and left through the back door. Like a thief. Like someone with something to hide. Carmen busied herself with breakfast, chattering about the weather, the flowers, anything but the elephant sitting in my kitchen. But I knew. God help me, I knew. The funeral was everything Roberto would have hated. Too many flowers, too many people he barely knew, too much fuss. He was a simple man, came to America with nothing but the clothes on his back and a dream of building something lasting. Started his construction company with his bare hands and a borrowed truck. By the time he died, Hernandez and Vega Construction was worth more than $2 million. Carmen had always resented the business. "Why can't you just retire, Pappy?" she'd say. "Enjoy your money." But Roberto wasn't built for retirement. He was built for work, for creating, for leaving something behind. The business was his third child, the one that never disappointed him. I sat in the front pew, watching Father Martinez say words that felt empty as old promises. Carmen cried pretty tears, the kind that don't mess up your makeup. She'd always been good at performing grief, even as a child. When our cat died, she sobbed for the neighbours but forgot to cry when she thought no one was watching. The cemetery was worse. Standing over that fresh grave, watching them lower the man I'd shared a bed with for 51 years, watched grow old, watched fight cancer with a stubbornness that almost won. Carmen stood beside me, holding my arm like a dutiful daughter. But her eyes kept wandering, searching the crowd, looking for someone. I found who she was looking for. David stood in the back, behind the other mourners. Our eyes met across that sea of black clothes and artificial sympathy. He looked away fast, guilty, like a man with blood on his hands. After the burial, people came to our house, the house Roberto built with his own hands in 1985. Room by room, board by board, until we had something beautiful. Carmen played hostess, serving coffee and accepting condolences like she was auditioning for a part in someone else's life. I watched her work the room, laughing at appropriate moments, dabbing her eyes when people looked. But I kept watching David too. They thought they were careful. Little glances. Carmen brushing past him when she served coffee. David's hand lingering too long when she handed him a plate of food. Touches that looked accidental but weren't. Communications that looked innocent but made my stomach turn. Most people walk away when stories get this heavy. The fact that you're still listening, that means something. Hit subscribe. I've got more to tell. I excused myself and went upstairs to Roberto's office. He'd kept all his business papers there, organised in files that only he understood. But I'd watched him work for 30 years. I knew where he kept everything. I found the partnership agreement first, then the will he'd made 5 years ago, leaving half the business to Carmen and half to David. Then the bank statements, and that's when I saw it. Withdrawals, large ones, starting 6 months ago, right after Roberto got his diagnosis. 50,000 here, 30,000 there, all co-signed by David Hernandez, all approved while Roberto was too sick with chemotherapy to pay attention. My hands shook as I added up the numbers. Nearly $300,000 gone, stolen while my husband was dying. I heard footsteps on the stairs, Carmen's voice calling my name. I shoved the papers back in the file and waited. She appeared in the doorway, still playing the grieving daughter. "Mummy, people are asking for you." "Let them ask," I said. "Carmen, where did you get the money for that new car?" Her face went blank, like someone had erased her expression with a cloth. "What car?" "The BMW you've been driving for 3 months. The one you told me your husband bought you." She swallowed hard. I watched her throat move. "Richard did buy it for me." "Richard makes $30,000 a year at the post office. That car costs more than he makes in 2 years. Carmen's mask slipped. Just for a second, but long enough for me to see the panic underneath. "Mammy, this isn't the time." "This is exactly the time. While your father's body is still warm, while his friends are downstairs eating his food. Tell me about the money, Carmen." She tried to lie. God help me, she tried to spin me a story about savings, about Richard's promotion that never happened, about a loan from her in-laws who'd been dead for 5 years. But I'd already seen the truth in those bank statements. I'd seen David's signature next to hers. I'd seen the dates that matched her new car, her new clothes, the vacation to Cancun she'd posted all over Facebook while telling me they were too broke to visit. Someone once told me there are rules that change after 60. One of them says that sacrifice without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. I wish I'd known that 30 years ago. If you want to know what those rules are, it's in the description. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in this living room. Roberto's portrait looked down at me from the wall. The same portrait Carmen had walked past 100 times while she was stealing from him. The same face that had smiled at her first steps, her graduation, her wedding. The same man she'd betrayed while he fought for his life. I pulled out my will, the one Roberto and I had made together, leaving everything to Carmen. Our house, our savings, his half of the business. Everything we'd built in 51 years of marriage. I took a black pen and crossed out her name, not with anger, but with the cold precision of a woman who'd finally seen the truth. Then I called my lawyer. At 10 o'clock at night, I called James Morrison and told him I needed new papers drawn up immediately. He tried to tell me to wait, to think it over, to consider my grief. James, I said, I'm 86 years old. I don't have time to think things over. The new will was simple. Everything goes to St. Vincent's Children's Home, the place where Roberto and I used to volunteer every Christmas. The children there never stole from us, never lied to us, never counted our money while we were dying. Carmen still doesn't know. She comes by every week, bringing groceries I don't need, asking about Pappy's business and when the lawyers will sort everything out. She's planning her future with stolen money, making lists of improvements she wants to make to this house when it's hers. Last week she brought paint samples. I think we should brighten up this living room, Mummy. It's so dark. Dark, like her soul. Like the secret she carries around like a tumour. But I let her plan. I let her dream. I let her count money that will never be hers, because there's something beautiful about justice, even when it comes slow. David calls sometimes. Mrs. Vega, how are you holding up? He asks about the business, about Roberto's files, about when we'll meet with lawyers to finalise everything. His voice is smooth as oil, but I can hear the desperation underneath. $300,000 is a lot of money to steal, but it's nothing compared to what he thought he was getting. Half of a $2 million business. My daughter's inheritance. Their future together. I found the motel receipts too, hidden in Carmen's purse when she left it in my kitchen last month. The El Paso Inn. Every Wednesday afternoon for the past 8 months. The same day Roberto had his chemotherapy appointments. The same day I was holding his hand while poison dripped into his veins, trying to save his life. The same day his daughter and his business partner were in a $20 motel room planning how to spend his money. The receipts had both their names on the register, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez. They'd been playing house while Roberto was dying. They'd been celebrating their future while I was watching my husband waste away to nothing. They'd been stealing and lying and betraying the man who'd given them everything. Everything I learned about patience, about sacrifice, about trust. It's all in something called the 60-year rule. 9 rules that reverse after 60. I wish someone had given me this 20 years ago. The link is right below this video. The funny thing about secrets is they have weight. I can see Carmen carrying hers around, getting heavier every day. Her shoulders slump a little more each week. Her smile fades a little faster. David stopped coming around altogether. Can't face me anymore, I suppose. Can't look at Roberto's widow and pretend he's not counting stolen money. Sometimes I wonder if they think about Roberto. if they remember the man who trusted them, loved them, gave them opportunities they never deserved, or if they've convinced themselves he wouldn't mind, if they've told themselves he would have wanted them to be happy. But Roberto was my husband for 51 years. I knew his heart better than his own mother did. He would have minded. He would have minded very much. The will is locked in James Morrison's safe. Carmen's name crossed out in black ink, replaced by children who will never know Roberto's name, but will benefit from his kindness anyway. Children who will get new beds, new books, new chances, because a man they never met worked his whole life to build something lasting. It's not revenge. Revenge is hot, angry, impulsive. This is justice, cold, patient, permanent. Roberto always said the best construction takes time. You don't rush the foundation. You don't cut corners on the important parts. You build something that lasts. I'm 86 years old. I won't live to see Carmen's face when she finds out. Won't be there when she realizes that all her planning, all her stealing, all her betraying led to nothing. But I sleep better now than I have in 3 years. Because sometimes the last gift you can give someone you love is making sure they're not forgotten, making sure their life meant something, making sure the people who hurt them don't get to profit from it. Carmen still brings me flowers sometimes, lilies because she thinks they remind me of her father's funeral. But I don't tell her that the smell makes me sick. I don't tell her that every time she walks through that door, I remember what she did while Roberto's body was still warm. I just put the flowers in water and watch them die. Like trust, like family, like the future she thought she was building on the bones of her father's generosity. The children at St. Vincent's will never know they owe their new playground to a woman who chose justice over blood. But Roberto will know. Somewhere, somehow, he'll know that the man who gave everything got the last word. And that's enough for me.